Hi, today we are talking about mania. What is the cause, the uses, and how to remedy if desired? Sometimes that's a bit of an if. So, this is a channel where we will be discussing things that are very off the wall, theoretical, and not necessarily the mainstream perspective. So, from that foundation, the first thing I want to say about mania is that it is very much a second chakra pendulum swing imbalance. The characteristics of mania are a lack of sleep, forgetting to eat, fits of laughter for no reason, sometimes frivolous spending or concepts of power. Um, there's also over sexualization of life, of presentation, and these are all like very typical signs of mania, sometimes coupled with paranoia, although that's kind of a different subject. But basically, like just over amplification of the physical body and expression, and just kind of being wired. That's the best summary word. And then, of course, the resulting depressive crash afterwards. So, why does this pendulum swing happen? I mean, a lot of times things like mania happen because of it's a trauma response, right? There's a pendulum swing because maybe in the past this person didn't get to experience freedom, happiness, expression, sexual expression. Maybe they are not acquainted with their divine creative expression. So all of these things, being able to feel happy, being able to revel in the senses, find gratitude for the moment, and just essentially be on a high, be happy. Maybe that's something that wasn't okay to be as a child. Maybe with CPTSD or just PTSD in general, maybe there was a deficiency of. And so the pendulum swing, once we get into a calm environment, or even a chaotic one, sometimes, if someone is recovering from a traumatic experience and they are in a calm environment, they may experience the opposite. They might start unpacking their emotions and experience things like mania or some kind of other emotional acting out because they're in a calm environment and it's actually safe to unpack that. Or they may have just experienced a traumatic experience that causes them to go into that pendulum swing and be manic. So, in all of these cases, it tends to be something that is out of balance, right? So, obviously, with brain chemistry, there's going to be an imbalance. You can research it. I don't feel that it's terribly useful to address the physical symptoms when they come from something deeper within. So a lot of times the medical community will attempt to address the physical symptoms, but they won't address fully the spiritual implications because, once again, there might actually be a use for mania, meaning that the body is attempting to balance out its own brain chemistry through euphoria, which maybe it hasn't been experiencing, which has actually, a lot of, it can have like more positive effects on the body. It in terms of expanding that out over time. The problem is with mania is that, the euphoria dump happens very quickly and very strongly instead of being spread out over time. And that is often the issue. But historically, there might have actually been uses for that. If someone wasn't able to sleep, which often happens with mania, or they're able to hyperfocus, that's really good if you're on watch, if you're keeping watch for a group of people. If you're maybe needing to stay up late to take care of the kids, or maybe there's a necessary creative outlet, something needs to be solved and requires a couple of sleepless nights. There might have been uses for that, but at some point the body can't keep up. And so then there's the depressive crash afterwards, right? because even when we're talking about meditation, there's the concept that you can be happy but don't hold on to it, because what goes up must come down, right? There must be balance in any system. And speaking of the mathematical world, there are uses for mania. I mean, it can be a very creative space and a very sensual one, meaning in touch with the senses. So it's hard to say that there aren't uses for mania, because when you're in a manic state, manifesting becomes so much easier. I'm sure you've noticed it. Magic or focusing your creative ability has become so much easier. It's easier to be creative. It's easier to manifest things. And certainly if you are into the magical arts whatsoever, it is the best time to do magic, because all of your abilities are online and basically in overdrive. So it can be a very productive time if you find an artistic outlet expression. And that is often the key, is to find a focused expression with which to use the formula E equals MC squared. I'm sure you've seen this on the internet before, but that particular formula can be rearranged a little bit in a way that is relevant to magic. E is emotion or energy, intention, if you will. Equals mass, or whatever you're trying to manifest, a situation or a physical object. And then, of course, the speed of light squared, which is not a constant. Anyone in the mathematical or engineering fields will know that light is not a constant, even in space, because it depends on what medium it is traveling through. And space is just not empty. It has all kinds of dust particles and dimensional shifts, black holes, stars, gravitational wells. There's no constant to the speed of light, but it's an approximation for the sake of simplifying math. So when you are in a manic state, it's a good time to focus, which admittedly can be very difficult because all the senses are alive at this moment. You want to smell everything, taste everything, touch everything. It's like being on acid for those that maybe have not been in a manic state. And there's just so much euphoria going on. Maybe there's even gratitude for life happening, which is beautiful. And grounding yourself through your senses and finding a physical practice, either working out. The best thing is to do yoga, because it really does realign your nervous system. Drinking caffeinated tea actually balances out the system, because all the extra phenols in Chinese tea will actually bring you back to homeostasis, interestingly enough. It's not all about caffeine. So there are several different ways of helping yourself get back to a more balanced state, but usually the biggest issue with mania is a lack of sleep. And that is truly difficult, because you're actually getting a lot of energy from the universe and channeling it into your body, which might be for physical or emotional healing. But it after a while, like not being able to sleep is a problem. So things like taking melatonin, maybe truly taking some sleep aids. Sometimes the prescription drugs from the psychological community are helpful, but certainly in moderation, and really look for the side effects, because for long-term use, it's highly questionable. What really needs to happen in the case of basically what is bipolar mania, manic episodes, really need to go find a somatic therapist to help figure out why these shifts in your energy field keep happening, because there is an imbalance there. but it needs to be addressed with a deeper therapy than just talk therapy. Like, yeah, we can talk about the symptoms, but what is the CPTSD or PTSD that happened that caused that swing to start? That's really what needs to be addressed, is probably an emotional release of some kind. So, what I want you to take away from this concept of mania is not to be afraid of it. I think a lot of time we over medicate patients because we are afraid to take them off of it. Who are they when they're not on their meds? Yes, address the symptoms, get sleep, find meditative practices, get good food and nutrition, because all of those things help. And really figure out your diet, because that is a big one. Like, this is not a time for coffee or extra sugars. Maybe even be careful about too many fruits. And certainly salads alone are not going to cut it. And you're going to need something heavier than that to help you sleep. Because you're attempting to level out your system and just basically make the body work a little bit harder, it's better to get the densest foods that you can possibly find in order to help you sleep. So I'm talking about heavy carbs, pastas, rice, heavy breads, like dense breads, any kind of meat. The densest ones you can find, particularly like beef, turkey, is optimal because of all the tryptophan, for the same reason cow's milk. Anything that's heavy that can help you sleep. Grains are really good, possibly potatoes of any variety. Things that will help you make your body work harder so that it has less energy to spend on making a bunch of fancy brain chemicals. For the same reason, you also want to do a lot of physical exercise. Do an hour of yoga, half an hour of yoga, do some heavy cardio, go to the gym, because you really want to get the body tired out so that sleep is far more probable if you've done something very physical, any kind of like outdoor labor perhaps. Go swimming. That's a really fun one. And it's also electrically realigning for the body to be in water, to go out on hikes on nature, something strenuous. You want to do something strenuous to really tire yourself out. And it'll also level out the depression because you're creating all of these endorphins that will help your brain kind of level out a bit. But it's not a solution to use medication long term because you're afraid of being someone that is destructive. Really need to address the root cause of that. I'm not saying that you can't be on medication while you're doing that, but you also can't live being afraid of yourself long term. That's not a solution. So allowing yourself to find better habits is a must. And also, because it's a second chakra issue, what is your relationship to happiness, to sensing within your body, to sexuality? Was there a repression of any of these things in your past? And what does that mean for you? How does that come out? Because if on the daily basis you're not finding a way to express yourself in these ways, then yeah, your life is truly lacking some things. There are some people that they don't have an off button for their sexuality. It just is oozing out all the time. And they don't know how to find a balance with that. And yeah, you can tell, right? So there is an imbalance there. And that's what needs to be addressed. So I hope that you found this video helpful. I hope that maybe you could consider a few techniques to find what works for you. Certainly any kind of a physical practice, any kind of working out is going to tire you out so that you can sleep. It's also going to help with the highs and lows of mania versus depression, and really get into the idea of addressing the emotional repression or emotional causes that are creating a physical mania, because your body is not doing this for no reason. Bottling up emotions causes drastic physical side effects, and that is what needs to be addressed in some kind of somatic therapy or through energy work. If you really don't want to go through the memories of what happened, maybe energy work or possibly hypnosis is the way for you. Because sometimes there's many ways to address a thing, the most powerful of which is always going to be meditation. Meditation, if you can sit still while in the middle of a manic episode, you may actually find it to be one of the most sensational things you've ever done, is to just sit still, to lie down, to notice your body, to breathe. That is the essence of meditation. You can sit, that's optimal. If you lie down to meditate, I will say that if your body gets used to that, you may also have difficulty sleeping. That's a lot of times how people start meditating, but it's better to train your body that sitting is for the meditative state and lying down is for sleeping. So that way the body does not get confused. We really need to remember that the body is like a pet. And if you train it to have certain cycles and rhythms, it's going to help you sleep at certain times. If you eat at 6 o'clock every night, 7 p.m., and you eat nothing afterwards and get to sleep, you're in bed at 10, this is optimal because you're training your pet to look at the cues for what is sleepy time. And that is sometimes very essential, is to have exceptional sleep hygiene. For those that are prone to mania or bipolar, really need to have a schedule and to stick to it long term. For those that grew up in a chaotic childhood environment and didn't have a schedule, this is the time to find one. So I hope you found some of these techniques to be helpful, and I hope that you maybe gained some deeper understanding, more self-acceptance of what you may be experiencing, and that you got to have some things to take away, some things to practice, and don't forget to do your art, because sometimes that's the best way to channel all of that energy, is to just do some art. Get out there and dance, make some paintings, some videos, snap some photos, find something to focus on that is creative, that is beautiful, that fills your soul with happiness in a grounded way. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.